Welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast, your source for information on hunting, fishing, and all of your outdoor passions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. I'm your host, Mike Anderson, here with my co-host, Ashley Sorensen. Ashley, how you doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great.
How are you,
All
Mike?
right. I'm doing fantastic. Yes.
Awesome.
It is one day closer to hunting season, and that gets me excited. And we are talking about SHOT Shell today. We're going to be talking a little bit about shotguns, some ammunition, some Hunt Fest stuff, which is coming up. And we have with us Dan Compton and Scott Turner. Dan, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Scott, how about you?
I'm feeling great, ready to do this.
All right.
Awesome.
Perfect. So, let's just start out with some introductions. Dan, you want to get us kicked off here?
Yeah, I'm Dan Compton. I'm the GPL director for Shotgun Shell for Vista Outdoor, which is the parent company of Federal Ammunition. I started at Federal about 14 years ago, done various roles over the years, and now I'm kind of a multi-branded shot shell guy, but got my roots started here at Federal. So.
Okay, perfect. Scott?
My name is Scott Turner, and I'm the product line manager for Federal Shot Shell.
Okay, nice. What are your two favorite parts about your job?
You want to go first or me?
Yeah,
He
I'll go
laughs.
first. So it's kind of funny is I think I was born for the product line management because I get to work with new product ideas and the development of new loads. I like all of it, but I think my favorite part is talking to the consumers to find out what's I love hearing the success stories, but I also like hearing about what they're looking for in the next generation of shot shells. So I really love hunting stories.
Oh, absolutely. We love hunting stories here too. If you follow any of our social channels, SCHEELS Outdoors, probably my favorite thing to post is user submitted stories. Like I get a big buck or a pile of ducks, it's like, let's hear the story. Come on.
Yep.
Yeah. And for me, and Scott kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like our job is to make sure that we have the right products in the field that consumers are looking for. We own the catalog and we own the SKUs. So it's our job to be the voice of the customer, and then we get to work with the engineers and they design it. And it kind of happens one of two ways. Either we go to them and say, hey, we need this. Can you build it and design it? Or they come to us and say, hey, we can build this. Can you sell it? And then we figure it out. So having to see, some of the things that we've worked on over the years, for me, it was like, we'll talk about Black Cloud in a little bit, but, being to make that a product, recognizing we needed to be able to shoot through ported choke tubes and we couldn't before, and making that happen and work, that process was pretty cool. But some of the things that you'll see that we've worked on that have never seen the light of day, I've shot cartridges that the world will probably never see because we just, couldn't take it any further. So the R&D side is great, but meeting the people, talking to consumers. And then my ultimate favorite thing I like to do is, one of my earlier jobs, I did a lot of training for like SCHEELS staff over the years that go and do your speed trainings where you get 3 or 5 people, you get 5 minutes, or go and do the Boy Scout camp when they were down in by Lanesboro down there. So I absolutely love the product training part. So
So you guys live and breathe this.
we really do. We're shot shell nerds for sure.
Love it. Well, yeah. The two of us probably don't have like a fourth of the experience of either of you guys. I do love hunting with a shotgun, upland stuff. Done a decent amount of pheasant hunting. Not nearly as much waterfowl as I'd like to, but some of my earliest hunting memories is going out with my Uncle Brent. Doing some duck hunting. Like I'd never gone before, and he comes up to me and like, hey, you want to go duck hunting with me? And I'm like, yeah, I do want to try it. And yeah, I remember like driving to the field with him like earliest in the morning and getting all set up right before the sun comes up. And that I will absolutely never forget the first flock of ducks that came in. And when they started setting their wings, just that whooshing sound, like I had never heard anything remotely like that before, and was just like immediately captivated. It's just so cool.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember similar the first time I went and hunted diver ducks. And you know, I was told, you know, I'd shot mallards, I'd shot geese in a field. And even that first, like going to geese in a field, I'm like, why are we going to a field? I had no idea. I thought ducks and geese lived in the water and that was it. So I had friends who kind of drug me along and taught me that part. But the first time, like bluebills came and like I call it Buzz the Tower, you know, just came by, just like fighter jets came by. Just, wow. And then I think I shot a box of shells and didn't hit a single one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like one of our, you know, those are the customers we kind of like in a way, you know, we make them so that they can hit, but you know, if they miss, you know, we'll always make
absolutely.
more. So.
Those are, I have to say, the waterfowl hunters, they're just a different breed. Like I consider myself pretty hardcore, but that's just like next level stuff.
It really is. Yeah.
You see like memes and stuff on social media, like what the components of a duck hunter, you know, like most people, you have like 72% water in their body. And, you know, the duck hunter is like 25% nicotine, 25% caffeine, and 50% rage.
Gas station food.
You know? Oh yeah, gas station burritos.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, love it. So, you know, let's talk about Hunt Fest a little bit. So, Federal is the main sponsor for Hunt Fest. I think we've got at least 20 of them going on in our SCHEELS store. First one starting July 22nd, going along through the end of July into August, and then we got a couple of stragglers in September. Dan, you've been to a few of these Hunt Fests now, correct? Worked a few of them?
Yeah, I've been over these. One of the very first events I worked with the company was a SCHEELS, you know, a Hunt Fest down in Mankato Mikado store. And I thought, you know, I showed up, I was wearing khakis and a polo. I thought I was going to be inside the whole day. And they're like, oh no, we got a pallet for you outside, and brought a bunch of ammo for me. And so I went inside, I bought a pair of shorts and sandals because it was about 95 degrees. And
yeah.
The guy next to me in the booth goes, oh, did you bring earplugs? And I'm like, oh, why do I need earplugs? And on the left was like echo calls, and next to him was RNT. And he goes, you're going to need them. So,
yeah. You're going to hear ducks all day
long. So we were, but it was good. It's always been a really good event. Like I said, I like just getting in front of people, and usually there's pretty good deals going on for people too. So.
Ooh, nice. Yeah. So, you know, for people that have never heard or been to a Hunt Fest, can you just describe the overall experience for somebody that goes to one of these things?
Yeah, it's kind of has that, you know, I don't want to say like a fair atmosphere to it. You know, it's like there's a parking lot sale, you know, depending on the store and the location you're at. But, you know, the vendor tent's sitting outside, but there's plenty of other stuff to do. You know, there's typically like a dog jump event at many of them, and that's always a big attraction. But people can walk around with their pets. You got a bunch of duck hunters. You hear duck calls going all over, and it's kind of, you know, at the end of July, a lot of people are kind of fish camp mode. If they're outdoor people, they're thinking about the season. But to me, like, you start hitting events like that, and as soon as you start hearing the quacks going on and the goose calls, and that really makes the blood starts heating up, you know, for the fall. And
I can already feel it over here.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. I like my excitement. I'm just starting to get a little bit giddy here. So
I know Scott's worked other events, you know, for other similar fall type calling contests and whatnot. I'm pretty sure it's the same feeling.
Yep. You know, there's some events that at night you can actually feel the calls still in your, you know, it's still reverberating through your teeth.
Love it. Oh, yeah. It's something about that first quack or first honk of the season that it's like, oh, I haven't really thought about that for a couple of months now, but then you're just like immediately back into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a great time for customers to like really talk to the vendors too, and get some of that insider information from you and ask you different questions, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we welcome it. So whoever, you know, if you're there, if there's the federal representative there, you know, by all means, reach out to them, talk to them, you know, get the questions they have. And if they don't have it, they'll find out. Usually, you know, they've got us kind of on text, so they can reach out and let us know if it's something technical. We'll be there for them. We're doing, it looks like we're doing some specials too. So it looks like if you're doing a case purchase of Black Cloud or Speed Shock, we got a free gift. So I think those are a limited quantity at each event. So get there early and be one of the first ones and make sure you don't miss out. So.
Yeah, I know. At just about every one of these Hunt Fest events, if you're one of the first like 100, 200 people or whatever, you get a nice little gift grab bag to go along with it. So kind of incentivize being one of the first ones there. And you kind of stole my question. I was going to get some insider information on you guys if there's going to be some deals there. But I mean, after all, it is Hunt Fest. So obviously there's going to be a tent full of deals, but you'll have some good stuff from Federal.
And then there's always prizes.
Yeah, in the past, say it one more time.
Oh, and then there's always prizes too that they're giving away.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. And we're coming off, like all-time demand for ammunition, and I know hunters have been kind of scrambling to get out there, and we've done the best to take care of retailers like SCHEELS as best we can. But I think you'll find, this season you'll find if you haven't been able to find the shells you're looking for, you're more than likely going to be able to find them now. So I think it's a good time to get out and stock up. Okay,
so you'd say we've finally hit the point where things have become a little bit more stable now in the ammunition industry?
Yeah, it definitely seems to appear that way. We were, there was a time where our back orders were like years, multiple years with the amount of capacity that we have. And we can make a lot of shells as a company. And we're starting to kind of shrink into that. We're starting to see, it seemed like every dealer had everything on order just to hope get some. And definitely we're definitely at a part where we can, commit to, plan to, and definitely fulfill the shelf a lot better than we could before, because it seems like people aren't just buying everything they see now.
Yeah, so absolutely. There was definitely some stockpiling going on there. Yeah. And, I can just picture some of the listeners right now. Well, I'll try to find primers right now and then talk to me about stability, sure. But it's definitely getting better.
Yeah, primers is still one thing that might take a little bit of time to catch up.
Yeah, they're just.
I can tell you on shot shell, handgun, rifle, things are definitely improving.
All right, great to hear. So, since we've got kind of the masterminds about some of these product lines, I'm gonna ask for your elevator pitches on a few of your top lineups. So, the first one I want to talk about is Prairie Storm. Who wants to take that one?
I'll take that one.
All right, Scott, what do you got?
Okay, so our Prairie Storm is all about tight patterns, and it's probably one of the best upland load that I've ever personally shot. It has the a 70-30 blend. It has the flight stopper pellet, but it's lead or steel, and it's using the flight control flex wad. So the flex wad is a rear opening wad, so it's very effective in any choke. It's just a great all around shell. I actually had the opportunity to use it in the 28 gauge. This last season in South Dakota, and the wind was really kicking up, and we had a couple of young dogs that were kind of fletching the birds quite a ways out there, and so I switched to Black Cloud even with the 28 gauge, and it was just crushing them. And of course everyone thought that I had some super ninja depleted uranium rounds or something. But it was just the Prairie Storm. It's an extremely effective in a tight patterning product. Works great up close, but I love it for those harder hunts.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So what different types of birds have you shot with Prairie Storm?
Prairie Storm, honestly, I've used it on. I've even used the steel version on waterfowl. So it's it was the only thing I had in the bag. I grabbed the wrong bag, but at least it was non-tox, and I was able to run with it. But grouse, quail, prairie chickens, it. Just about anything you can use it for. It's a little bit excessive for some of the smaller birds, but if that's all you got, it'll definitely work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I imagine it'd tear up a dove pretty well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you were down in if you hunted doves, usually half the day you're kind of sky busting at them, and then at the last little bit they're coming off the feeding field. If you were willing to take the shoulder recoil, it would really help you.
Yeah, I imagine.
But it's a pretty high-powered dove load.
Yeah.
And when we were hunting, Dan and I were hunting in Texas on the dove opener, and I'm fairly confident that he had to be shooting some prairie storm at some of the birds that he was taking out at, when they late in the afternoon when they're way up there. I was just shooting at them, but he was hitting them. So
Okay, so you guys have done a decent amount of hunting like together then?
Just a little bit. I think that's one of the only ones we've been able to do so far. But I'll say on this one, Scott was shooting 28 gauge. I started with 28 gauge, and then at one point I'm like, nah, I'm done with this, and I went back to the 12 because I like more pellets and more power. So he was actually hitting with 28 gauge where I gave up. So so I need more help. So I think we're both kind of patty.
So working with an ammunition company, like how many different guns do you end up bringing to a hunt? So, I mean, like you've got basically unlimited access to all this ammunition and different calibers and stuff. Are you bringing like 5 different guns and just trying things out, or how does that work?
A staple for myself is I usually bring my 12 gauge, and I love my 28 gauge. It's actually made me a better shot with my 12 gauge. But usually just those two, unless I'm doing like when I went to South Dakota and we were doing a combination hunt, waterfowl in the morning and then pheasants in the afternoon. I brought my 12 gauge autoloader for waterfowl, and I had my 28 gauge over and under for upland.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same. It kind of depends on what we're doing. The dove hunt we're talking about in Texas is something that we've done over the years with our R&D guys, and it gives you a lot of volume to try new things. So we go out, and there's either two things we do if we're going to test product. We try to go shoot snow geese, or we try to go shoot doves, because then hopefully we can shoot a lot. Mm-hmm. And so at that one, I think on that one we had every gauge imaginable, and we shot a bunch of different loads, and we shot different shot materials, and trying to figure out new things we're doing for the future. Personally, I've tried to make it a goal, like any product line that I've worked on over the years, to ensure that I've had plenty of time to try it in the field. So a few years ago, all waterfall season, all I shot was 2 3/4 inch, 3s and 4s and 2s and black club, because I just hadn't spent a lot of time with it. I thought, well, if I'm going to put it out there, I got to be a believer in it. I know I can shoot a duck with 3 inch. So, but I'm primarily a 12 gauge guy, and starting to creep into 20 a little bit more, and then what guns come which kind of just depends on what we're chasing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, all right, let's move on to another line. Let's talk about your ultra pheasant line.
Yeah, ultra pheasant's been exclusive to SCHEELS. I don't really know how long. It's been as long as I've worked here, I believe, which is probably 15 years plus. So it's our premium line. The difference between Federal Premium and Prairie Storm, both premium offerings. Prairie Storm's going to have the flight stopper shot, like Scott said, and the flight control wad. Our premium is just our copper-plated line with all high-quality components. So we use high-density polyethylene wads. And one thing that you'll hear carry over about all of the wads that we shoot is that our plastics seem rigid. And that helps, depending on, there's more that goes into it, but it makes them very chokeable. So if you're going to open up a choke or tighten it up, our wads seem to respond really well to that. So the Ultra Pheasant, exclusive to you guys, is 1,500 feet per second, copper-plated, 1 3/8 load. So 1 3/8 is a lot of shot going out there. Typically, a lot of pheasant hunters might go a little beyond that, but normally it's 1 1/4, sometimes 1 1/8. Depends on how fast you want. So you're getting a little more pellets. Copper plating is going to help your shot from deforming. Like if you're in a car and you hit the gas pedal and you get sucked back into the seat, that's what's happening in the back of a shotgun shell. So all the lead in the back can start to flatten out. And if it gets out around, that's where flyers will happen from your pattern. So we copper plate it to keep its roundness. We give it a little heavier payload, and going at 1,500 feet per second, it's going to be everything you need to reach out and hit pheasant. The difference between something like that and Prairie Storm is going to be tighter. So it's going to give you a little bit more range. So I would always say between our premium lineup and Prairie Storm, you kind of have two uses. If you're talking about like Scott was, when you're out there, maybe a little wild dogs, a little bit wind, or you got real jumpy birds far out, you need range. That's where Prairie Storm comes in. If you're hunting pointers, if you're hunting, maybe a game farm setting, or where things will be a little close, you're going to have that's where the federal premium comes in, so that you're not just, shooting your bird in half, or, you have to let them get out a little further. So two different kind of purposes, but yeah, great loads. And then the Ultra Pheasant is available in either 4s, 5s, or 6 shot. And we're working on a 20 gauge to try to get to you guys before this fall as well.
Oh, very nice. All right, let's move to stuff waterfowl hunters are excited about, and that's that black cloud.
Sure.
Yeah, black cloud. I love black cloud. I think that I have an advantage in a way because I've only been in the with federal for a year and in the industry for 3 years. So I remember really easily, what it was like being a consumer. And once I started, black cloud was like my entry into like premium products. And I think that hands down is probably the most effective all steel load that's out there. It's extremely effective because of the flight control flex wad and the 60-40 blend with the flight stopper pellet. It's extremely tight patterning. It's like I said, it's probably one of the most effective all steel loads, in the market.
Mm-hmm. So where did the initial idea come about on black cloud?
Years ago when they started looking at it, when Scott, 1991, 1990-ish, when the world, all public areas or all waterfowl had to go to lead-free, and so, or non-toxic shot. And so most companies, like, Federal had steel in the lineup for some time. They'd kind of seen this coming. But what a lot of companies did is they just took like that 1.25 ounce load, they put 1.25 ounces of steel in it. They did it at the same velocity, 1250, 1300. Well, all ammo is a density game. So the more dense your metal is, the more energy it's going to have as it carries down range. So steel density is right around 7.6, we'll call it 8, and lead has a density of 11. So it's like tennis balls and baseballs. If both of them going 80 miles an hour, one of them's going to have a lot more punch to it, right? The baseball, there's just more mass. So the initial offerings of steel were kind of weak. They were hitting birds, they were wounding birds because they didn't have, the energy behind them. So companies started jacking the speeds up. And that was kind of really the only options you had, was to go faster. Then alternative metals started to come in, and, like bismuth started to come out, and then tungsten. And that's how Scott handles the heavy shot line as well. That's how heavy shot came into being, because they wanted to have a more denser pellet, better than steel. So Federal recognized, it's like, well, is there anything else we can do here other than just go faster? So we'd had the flight control wad and buckshot, and they started putting steel in it. And then we had the option of this, so we designed this flight stopper pellet, which kind of looks like we call it Saturn shot, is when it initially came out. And, we found that if you put those two together, you got this really tight, but you got a really consistent, uniform pattern every time. And, pellets kill, pellet counts kill. So the more pellets you get on the bird, the more stopping power you have. And it just really came like this kind of perfect recipe. So we were looking for something better, and in that created a load and then gave it a little bit of a personality to it, like black cloud. We didn't just call it Federal. We made black cloud the leader of it. And at one point we actually had a social network that had, almost 15,000 people on it, just chatting about duck hunting. And then eventually we rolled that just into our regular Facebook page. So yeah, that's what it kind of came about. We wanted to give somebody a better option, and then have a duck hunting load that kind of spoke more to the lifestyle of the waterfowler as well.
And that's really cool, just seeing that community gathering up and just talking about the sport of waterfowl in general. It's just that's one cool thing about social media and forums, and it's just gathering like-minded people to share stories and experiences and tips and tricks, and it's just pretty cool to see.
And I think all outdoor pursuits have some element of a social community, but waterfowl really seems to have embraced it. If you're duck hunting and you're not putting it on Instagram or, TikTok or, whatever the kids are doing.
Yeah. Are you really doing it?
It's like, you're not doing it.
You're not doing it.
That's funny. And then I also love some of the pictures, the people that are pretty tech savvy will start blocking out the background so you don't see where they're actually hunting.
Oh, sure.
Like that.
Yeah.
Can't give away your spots. You want to show your success, but you can't show your spots. Otherwise,
but
you got to get
really
up an extra hour
just
earlier.
been, like, edited, I don't know. It's my thought.
Yeah. All right. Well, last one I want to talk about, the stuff that really jumps out when you're walking across a SCHEELS store and looking at the shelves, and that's the retro steel. What do you got on that?
Yeah, so that is it's a version of our Speed Shock line, or what we call Blue Box. You can kind of see it over my shoulder behind me here. When we were talking to SCHEELS, our sales rep was working with your buyers, and they're like, "What could we give? We have a history of doing some unique loads for you guys." And so we pitched, "What if can we do a throwback box for you?" And then they loved it. And people really seemed to like that stuff when we put it out. And it was, we just cracked 100-year anniversary for Federal in 2022, and it was building up to that when we first offered it. So, we thought, yeah, the timing was pretty good. But like you said, if you go there and, there's usually an end cap of it, but it really catches the eye. And it's one of our looks from, I think it probably goes back to the 1960s, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Okay. Yeah. It's like you're kind of just teleported back into the 60s when you look at that box. It's really just good nostalgia, bring you back into your, favorite hunting memories and things like that. Yep. And, that just turned into like basically a perfect segue for what I wanted to do next, which was some hunting stories. So, first though, Dan, before we actually hit the record button, you were telling me that you had a pretty good story about one of the hunt fests. So,
oh yeah, and I guess that was what I referred to in the beginning with the you better have your earplugs because it's about to get rowdy around here, and that was with all the highball duck calls. So.
Yeah.
Or how about, before we even get into those hunting stories, how about like challenges or opportunities you guys have seen in the ammunition market like today?
Scott, you want to take one?
Oh yeah. So as far as like the challenges, as far as like for coming out of such a capacity constraint and the supply chain, that's the first thing that comes to my mind was 2 years ago talking to consumers and feeling their struggles of being able to find ammunition. So I think that was the biggest hurdle that we've come through recently, but we've really ramped everything up, and that doesn't seem to be the issue. We're starting to see shells on the shelves. So that's probably been the biggest challenge that we have, is just to keep pumping out those shells for the consumer.
Yeah. And our job, as we kind of alluded to before, is, what's the next thing? Where's technology going to bring us? How can we make it better? We always say faster, cheaper, better, is what we're trying to do. But, speed isn't always what someone's looking for. But what's the next waterfowl load? And we try to have an answer for everybody. So if you look across most of our product lines, you're going to find something opening price point like the retro load we were talking about. It's going to work perfect for many hunters for what they like. But then we have a premium offering. Then we get all the way up into the bismuths and the tungstens, and your price starts to escalate there. But if that's the load you want, if you want some of the absolute best products on the market, we'll offer that to you. So our challenge is, where's the market going? What are we going to find next? And we're always on the hunt for, is there new metals? Is there new alloys? Is there new polymer alloys we can look at? And then a lot of the world is looking for, single-use plastics. It's kind of an area that we've been trying to focus on. Like, how can we minimize some of that in our loads so that we're being a good steward of the land as well? So,
yeah, it's interesting.
Very nice. So
I think that was interesting about your R&D too, of like some things never even make it to market.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's a big process.
Right.
Yeah. Years ago, we developed a few years ago a new muzzle loading system called a Fire Stick, and that is segue in different product category. But instead of just loading your powder and your bullet down the barrel, you load the bullet down the barrel and you charge it from the rear with this contained capsule that has all the propellant. It keeps it dry, and if you've ever muzzle loaded, it can be a pain depending on, because the weather is usually horrible. So we're trying to make it more reliable, less barriers to entry, and so on. And as part of that development, we developed a couple guns internally that were Frankenstein from other firearms. And, they're super, super cool. And there's many of us here that would love to have that hanging on the wall or in the gun safe at our home, but it'll probably always live in a vault here, so being able to like shoot something like that,
Sure.
Traditions went on to be the developer of the firearm and they're on the market, but nobody will ever see that Ruger #1 that we converted to make it into that. So cool things like that.
Yeah. We better stay off the topic of muzzle loaders. That's a slippery slope that could turn into like a 3-hour podcast.
Maybe that's another podcast.
Yeah. Well,
A 3-part
I'll
series.
write that one down. We got to do a muzzle loader podcast for sure. And Ashley, I have to thank you for keeping me on task and making sure to talk about some of the the specs and important nitty gritty stuff that we need to talk about with federal.
Things I really want to know.
All I have in my mind is like, I want to hear hunting stories
stories,
from
right.
these guys. Come on. I'm like, I got the itch. So, I want to hear your favorite hunting story from each of you guys. What do you got? Dan, you want to start?
Sure. A few years ago, my old boss he retired last year, but he and I went on a hunting trip with one of our Canadian sales reps, and we went up to Alberta to shoot sandhill cranes, something I'd never done. And a new load we had at the time was called Black Cloud TSS. So it's tungsten super shot, super dense shot mixed with steel. You get incredible range out of it, incredible pellets. It's awesome stuff. So we'd never had a chance to hunt with it yet. So we were going to go against the sandhill crane, which is huge if you've ever seen it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so we set up on a field, and the cranes came in, and we had a couple of decoys out on them, and it was crazy to watch them because their necks are so long. Like they're coming in, you could just see them looking around like this, as they're trying to spot us. And so they came around, coming right over us, and the guy says, "Take them." So we pop up, and boom, and I hit the first one and just crumpled it. And I went to the second one, and I missed, and I pulled the trigger to go for my third shot. And as I looked out of the corner of my left eye, here came that crane, and he just smoked me right in the shoulder. And the guy was filming on his phone over my shoulder. You just hear him say, "He hit me." And but then you hear another guy say, "You're lucky you didn't get harpooned."
Right, yeah.
No kidding.
Or I'm lucky that he was stoned because dead, because their claws are pretty aggressive. And we've all heard a lot of dogs they make them wear goggles when they retrieve them and stuff because they can be pretty.
Yeah, that's one bird I wouldn't want to mess with.
No, if they're wounded, you want to make sure you can put them down at range. So, and they're fantastic eating. So people call them ribeye of the sky. It's not too far off.
Absolutely. What's your favorite way to prepare them?
That I did a lot of. We did them several different ways. Just kind of grill them as steaks. I always try something. Just try to what is it like with salt and pepper? Just put it on the grill with salt and pepper, and then that kind of can take it from there. Did a lot of slow cooker and made burritos out of them, and I think I did little breaded nuggets out of them. I think I kind of tried everything, but the slow cooker burrito, that seemed to be kind of the favorite at my house. So.
Okay.
What did you say it tastes like?
It's beef. It tastes like beef.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, just a lot like roast beef. Huh. Super lean. It's not as marbled as beef, but there's hardly any game taste to it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't really expanded my culinary horizons all that much with with birds and waterfowl, especially ducks and geese. I mean, I'm usually throw it in the crock pot with a can of cream of mushroom soup or turn it into jerky. Those have been my two main ones. But we've had a couple of podcasts before where we've talked about some recipes, and I can't remember the name of the guy, but he does a duck and goose pastrami. And that sounds incredibly delicious, and I probably need to try that. I also need to shoot more birds because I get way too into the bow hunting thing, and I got a thing where I like to chase really big animals, and I wait a long time, and I often end up waiting until December and filling my tag on the first doe that pops out. But that's another story.
Sure. So you're going hungry.
Yeah, I'm going into the weeds here, so no. Kind of reel me back.
No, I'm saying you're hungry because you're catching enough.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, Scott, you're up. What do you got for us?
So I love hunting with I have well, now he's 11, but my son, I love taking him out in the field. And one time we were goose hunting together, and I think he was probably 7. And it was really cold. It was frigid. And so he didn't want to stay in his own blind. So he got in my lay down blind, and he was down by my legs, and he had his ear pro on, and I didn't know that he fell asleep. So here I'm calling some geese, and I'm telling him, I'm like, okay, here they come. Here they come. All right, get ready, get ready. And then I sat up, and I got I hit the first 2, and then the third one was just way, way up there. And I wasn't sure if I had, nicked it, because they're kind of staggered. And so I went ahead and I took a shot, and it was pretty high up there, and it crumbles, and it just falls down. And when it hits the ground, it's like, oh, boom. And my son, he's like, whoa, I love that sound.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot better sound to a waterfowl hunter than hearing that.
He's like,
thud.
That's the best way to wake up, Dad.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Good times.
Oh, absolutely. Do you guys have any hunts planned for this fall that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to be going to Duck Fest that's in North Dakota the first part of October. And then I'm going up to Manitoba, Canada with Delta Waterfowl. So I'm really excited about those 2 hunts.
Yeah, and I don't have anything big or major planned, but I'll do some local duck hunting and goose hunting around the Minnesota area here. We have a lot of Canadian geese or Canada geese, so I'll be chasing some of that. And again, I have a son as well, so he's starting to get all into it, kind of like I was at his age. So.
Yeah, there's nothing more fun than introducing youth into the sport.
Mike's just got girls, so.
Yeah, but
are you working on him?
I'll get him into the fields. Okay. Yeah, my oldest is rapidly becoming a very girly girl, so it'll be a question mark on her. I've got her out turkey hunting and deer hunting, and she's not a morning person. She's
sure.
A lot like my wife in that.
Well, she could be like their sons, and sleeping in the blind with you.
Oh yeah. There we go. Just taking a nap. But the youngest one, she's 3. Her name is Ava, and she's an absolute wild card. I think she's gonna be pretty into it. I was talking with Ashley earlier about taking them to the fair, and their favorite thing about the whole fair was going to one of the games where like the little, it's either ducks or fish or whatever that swim around and you try and catch them. Like with this, it was just one of those little like Snoopy poles with a magnet at the end. And they sat there for like 15 minutes and each caught like 30 of them. And I had to pry the rod from their hands. And so they're into the outdoors, but that youngest one, I think she's going to be into it. And I imagine if both of them go out, they're going to shoot more and better than I do, because that's just the way that it goes.
Yep,
show up their dad, yeah.
Yeah. What about a bucket list hunt? So do you guys have a bucket list hunt you want to check off the list?
Mine is the Manitoba hunt. I'm really, really excited about that. And I'm really, after hearing Dan's story about the cranes, I'm kind of hoping that he'll want to take me on a hunt like that.
Yeah.
So, I've never hunted.
I was talking to somebody who did some hunting in the Aleutian Islands up in Alaska, and that sounded pretty amazing. They were going after, I think they're going after eiders, and I can't remember some of the other ducks, but it just sounded like the whole setting just sounded phenomenal. They were kind of laying down on rocky shores, covering themselves in kelp blinds, and shooting these birds coming around the rocks, and out in the middle of nowhere, no cell reception for 10 days, just gone. And that sounded pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I did get a chance to go to Sweden last year, and I was able to hunt on the Baltic Sea, and we hunted on Eurasian widgeons on like a bay on the Baltic Sea, and then field hunted what they call barnacle geese and gray leg geese. And barnacle goose kind of looks like a Canada goose with a tuxedo. It's like a little fancier.
Okay.
Gray leg goose is like the traditional, almost like a farm goose. But that was a really, really, cool experience. And yeah, so I would say I've accomplished quite a few of the buckets. So they're starting to. I think Alaska's probably maybe the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I was to Alaska 2 years ago, and it is amazing. I wasn't hunting, but I can only imagine that. Yeah, that is the perfect setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never been to Alaska, but I've always wanted to go. There's so many species I want to go after, whether it's hunting or fishing, and just the scenery and just kind of getting off the grid. It's definitely something I want to do. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that was great. I mean, I appreciate the information from you guys. A lot of good techie stuff from you guys. Some good hunting stories, and just a little bit of excitement for these hunt fests going on. So it's gonna be a great summer, early fall.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
All right, Dan, Scott, appreciate the time and the information.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
And there you have it. A wonderful session with Scott and Dan. And before we close out here, I just want to make sure to let everyone know to subscribe to this podcast, either on your listening platform or on YouTube, where you'll find the videos. And make sure to check out our social channels, SCHEELS Outdoors on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're also on Stitch now, if you're an early adopter to that platform. And make sure to check out our Hunt Fest too, happening this late summer, early fall. There's going to be some great events like we were talking about with dock dogs and calling stuff, and a lot of great deals to get you ready for that upcoming hunting season.
Deals, giveaways, prizes. So starting July 22nd, going through, I guess, August, and then some into September.
Yep, exactly. So make sure to visit us there, and for any of your shot shell or upland or waterfall needs, make sure to head to your local store or check us out at scheels.com.
We hope to see you there.
Yeah. And with that, thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. Stay tuned for future segments and visit our social media pages, SCHEELS Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram, for daily updates.